Hi everyone and welcome to a new tutorial. My name is Abdi for asART 3D and motion graphics. Today I would like to show you how you can create some caustic effects for underwater scene which looks similar to the demo that I've been posting a while ago. So we go through all the steps. We're going to go create these gobos for the caustic effects in After Effects, and then we go and use it in 3ds Max, and we will use some tyFlow to animate those seaweeds and the debris and the fish in the water as well. So just let's jump into After Effects and start creating that. So here I am in After Effects, and I'm gonna just start with a new comp. The size is 2048 by 2048. I'm gonna use the frame rate of 25 and the length of 250 frames, which is 10 seconds in this case. Now Control Y to create a new solid, make it comp size and press OK. Duplicate it by pressing Control and D, and then Shift Control C in order to pre-comp that and call it just Caustics. Now we can open that, select the layer again, duplicate it, and then press enter and rename it to noise. Now in your effects and controls panel, just right click, go to noise and grain, and go to fractal noise. Here we change the fractal type to spherely, invert it, set the contrast to 250 and the brightness to something like -30. Then we go to transform. I'm gonna bring down the scale to about 90, and in the sub settings I'm gonna set the influence and the scale value both to 90 here. And here we are actually done for now. We'll come back to that in order to adjust stuff. But the next thing we need is adding a CC vector blur to that. So again, right click in your effects and control panel, and then go to blur and sharpen and add the CC vector blur. Bring up the value to about 40. The reach smoothness to 9, and here we go to 20, and in the fractal settings I just forgot to set my complexity to 1.8. So that brings up lots of details. The next thing I'm going to add to this is exposure. So go to color correction and then select exposure and bring that up. So now in order to animate it, alt click on this stopwatch on evolution stopwatch and just type in time times 180. So, and what that does is actually do an evolution for of 180 per second. So when I'm on 25 frames, it's already on 180. So this is what gives it its speed, and you can go and change that value if you want to make it slower or faster. But when I ramp preview, I'm actually pretty happy with that speed that I see here. So it looks like some caustics. So the next thing I'm gonna do is select the background layer and go right click in the effects control and then go to generate fill and change the color to some darkish gray. So set it to 30, 30, 30. That gives you a darkish gray, and then select the noise layer again and change its blending mode to screen so it blends with the background. Now we can go back to the main comp. You can just call it main comp and then we can go up to the composition and add that to the render queue. And here we go to the output method and select the JPEG sequence. Go to format options and make sure you select maximum. Press OK and OK again, and go and define the path for the output and also give it a name. So hit render, and in order to save a little bit of time, you can just press caps lock on your keyboard so it stops the live preview here, and it helps with the render speed. But this is done now. Now I can go and close it. Don't need to save this. So here I am in 3ds Max, and I already have a plane here. The next thing I need is just a rectangle light, and I'm gonna make it the size of my ground, which is 200 centimeters by 200 centimeters. I'm gonna put that to the center and set it to 20 centimeters above the ground. So now I go to my material editor, right click, maps, VRay bitmap, and I'm gonna go and select the caustics that I exported. So I select the first image, then make sure that sequence is activated and click open. So we zoom in and move the CTI here. You see that that changes. That means the animation is loaded correctly. Now with the light selected, drag the map into the map slot here as an instance. Now we can go and close this. So in order to see that, I'm going to use the Vantage Live Preview, so where we can really see what we are doing, because the viewport is not showing the light effects and the caustics and everything we are using here. So let me just go here. Bring up Vantage. So now everything is overexposure because I'm not using the camera. Now I switch to my camera that I have, and this is what we see. So select the light, go to the directional value and set it all the way up to 1. This is what will show you the caustics here. Let me just lock that on top so we can see that all the time. So that is the caustics we see, and here they are just pixelated. So when I go and move in with the camera, when I zoom in here, you're going to see some pixels up there, and we can change it by increasing the value of the texture resolution up to the same value or the same size as our comp, which is 2048. So now it will smooth out everything. Let me go back with the camera again. So the light options, make it invisible, so we don't need that black thing up there. We don't need to cast any shadows with this light because I have an additional sunlight here in my scene as well that I'm using. So the sun is actually doing the lighting here in the scene, and the light we are creating, that rectangular light, is only for the caustics. So we don't need the shadows. It doesn't have to be double-sided. Sometimes that helps, but in this case we just leave it on one side. It should be invisible so we don't see that black area, and we don't also have to affect the specular, so we can get rid of that. Now we don't see much of it right now, but if you go and crank it up intensity, it will bring it back. So when I move, then you see what happens. Okay, so the next thing is creating the water surface. So we go and stop the live preview for now, and I'm gonna go and duplicate the ground, call it water, and duplicate it as a copy, and then I'm going to my material editor again, add a water material to that, and we will come back to it and do some adjustments again, and bring the water surface up to maybe 20, actually 20 centimeters as well, as high as the light is. Or we go to 20.5, a little bit higher in the water surface, so they are not just on top of each other. Now I'm gonna switch to the perspective view and solo my water surface. Add a shell modifier to this and go for the inner amount 30 and outer amount is 0. Then add edit poly modifier on top of that. Go to the polygon selection tool, activate by angle, set that angle to 5 and click on the top surface. It will select all of them. With this selected, add a tessellate modifier to it. Set the tension to 0. Make sure you have polygons and not triangles, so not faces, polygons selected. And set that to 3. Next thing I need is a displacement modifier, and I'm gonna set the strength to 1 centimeters. Go back to my material editor, right click, maps, and then I'm going to Phoenix FD and use the Phoenix FD ocean texture and drag this guy to my maps slot as an instance. In the settings of the ocean texture, I'm gonna change the wind speed to 100 and the rate of change to 0.1. So now I can go and add another edit poly on top of it. When I zoom in here and move my CTI, we have a much more dynamic water surface. Much better than when you would go and use noise only, which you can do, but since I have Phoenix FD, I'm gonna go and use this one. So I switch back to my camera view and unhide everything, and also start the live preview again to see what we got so far and how that looks. So this is our underwater scene. I also have a large rock, and that is how that looks like right now. So now in order to change the size of the caustic effect here, what you can do is go to material editor again and select the caustics map, scroll down to tiling and set that to something like 2 by 2, and if we go back here we have now much smaller caustics. You can select the light again, increase the value maybe to 650 or something so we see more. And for the next thing, I'm going to add some gravel and stuff to the ground here. And for this, I'm going to use forest pack. But before I do this, I go and increase my segments on this plane and then add a noise modifier on top of it. Set the scale to 50 and bring it maybe up to 15. That's just too much, maybe 10. It should actually be good enough. We could actually go to 6 or something. I just want some unevenly ground, so not just a straight ground. So now I'm going to add forest pack to this. Go to the library and select some gravel. Let's select these dark gravels here. Now start the live preview and change the size of them. So make them smaller. Go to density or distribution and crank the value up. Actually bring it down, but it will increase the amount of the gravel. So everything will then look different. Right now you don't see the caustics and everything, but when we add water to that, it will actually look pretty different. So now we go back to the materials again. Let me get rid of that. Select the water and the fog value is actually what gives you the look of the water itself. So how dark the water looks is that what changes it. So lower values will give you much darker water. Actually, it becomes denser fog, so you can see through that, or you see less through. And the higher you go, the more light comes through, and then you see more of the stuff underwater. But for this, I'm gonna set it to somewhere around 30 and change the color maybe to some more greenish, lakeish color like that. And maybe 25, so it's a little bit darker. And that is actually something I can look at and say, yeah, that looks like underwater lake or small river or whatever. So the next thing I want to do is adding those seaweeds to the scene, and those were things I created with tyFlow. So let me close this and just hide my water here. Go to my animated props. I have the fish. We will come back to that soon. And I'm going to my seaweed for now and solo this and unhide my ground. So that is something I got from a library. It's just a seaweed model. It was pretty low poly, so I added the tessellate modifier on top of it and cranked the faces up, because for that kind of simulations you need a good amount of faces. Because I'm going to use tyFlow and create a cloth animation with that. This is why a high amount of faces or polygons are pretty helpful. So let's just center that. Then go to the settings in timestamp, set it to 1.8. Open the editor. Then make that a little bit smaller so you see what I'm doing. Now, birth object. Gonna pick my seaweed as my object here. We don't have to center the pivots, that's okay. Then next thing is cloth bind, so press tab and then type in cloth, then you have the cloth bind. Let me go back to 0 so we don't have to wait all the time. That is okay. Now next thing I need is surface test. go and pick the ground and set the value to something like 1. So everything which is closer than 1 centimeters to that ground will go to the next event, where we do the object bind and bind to the ground, and then deactivate the particles or particle switch, and then deactivate them. In that way, they will just stick on the ground and don't move, and are not affected by all other modifiers and operators here. So now I'm going to add a force operator, set the value to 0.1, positive 0.1, so it goes upwards and it's not falling down. For the noise strength, I'm going to set that to 0.3, frequency 0.35, scale set that to 20 for now, and that is actually it. So let's go and see how that behaves, because maybe we will have to add a slow operator to that as well. So I think it is too wild for now, so let me go and simulate that to the end. Yeah, it is going too wild for now, so we could slow that down a little bit, adding the slow operator here. Let's press tab, slow, and let's give that maybe 10% of variation, and set that maybe to 3, should be good enough. So let me simulate that again. Now let's see what that looks like. Now, it could be a bit slower. I'm gonna bring it up to, I'm gonna leave it for now. And the next thing I forgot to do is go into my object bind and activate lock to surface. So that I forgot. So I'll set this one. Now we can hide the tyFlow, add a new forest pack, and go and select in my geometry, add a new one, and select the tyFlow. Now we don't see a thing because we have to distribute a lot more of those. So bring down the units value, and that will increase the amount of the object. So now let me switch to the top view, bring in my large rock model, go to the areas, and then add this model to it. So it will delete everything which is around or near that or underneath it. The next thing I can do here is adding a new paint area and exclude that, so I can go and paint just over those areas where no weeds should be. So you can get rid of some of those as well. Now let's go back to my material editor and add the materials to tyFlow just to make sure we have everything. I guess I did that before, but just to make sure. And let's go and see if I can change the seed of them. It's not working like this, but we can go to distribution and select another patch, maybe this one. Then go back to geometry, make them a little bit smaller. Go to transform, enable translation, rotation, and scale. So we can bring that down a bit, this guy down a bit, and go to animation and set random samples. So that not all of them are just doing the same thing. There will be variations in the animation when we play it back. So now go and enable the water again and run my live preview and see what we get so far. Bring it up, so that is what we have. Now when I go through that, we have to simulate it again. Better thing is actually caching it out and then using it that way. So that will save some of those calculations actually. So let me go to the end and wait a while. So now it is done. Let's see how that works. That looks pretty good. It might be too fast for this animation, but you can go and tweak the speed using the slow operator and tweaking the noise and everything. So now let's go and create the debris which were visible in the water in my demo as well. So let me switch to the top view, and I see that I have too many of these seaweeds right there. So go back to my first pack, to the areas, select my paint area and paint away some of them again. So that should actually be good enough. So we go here and here. There we have it. So now I need a box. I'm going to use it as the emitter for the debris that I had in the water in my demo. So go and set the properties. It is not renderable, and display as box. I'm going to set it to the center real quick. And the height of it, I'm going to set it to 20, which is the same height as the water surface. And now we need a new tyFlow. Going to set the time step to half. Then again, birth particles, set the end to 0, the total to 2000, and then we're going to use position object and pick the box that we created and set the location to volume. So that will create some particles inside of our box. So this is what we get so far. Now we go and add a scale operator to that, and also a mesh operator, sorry, a shape operator. And for my shape, I'm gonna select a circle. For my scaling, gonna change that to maybe 45% for variations, make them uniform, and add force to that. Change the strength to 0.2 of noise, frequency to 0.02, and the scale maybe to something like 30. Now we need a collision operator, and I'm gonna add the same box as my collision, set it to shape radius, and geometry as display. So this is what we got. Now let me see how that moves. If they're going too crazy. Okay, speed is actually something we can slow down a bit. We need just a slow operator for that. So we slow them down about 10% or something. And go to the collision and make sure that the friction is just 0 and the variations of it as well. So we don't need any frictions here. And that is not bad. It's still too fast. So we're going to slow that down for a good portion. And maybe a variation of 10%. It is not bad now. It's okay. Now I can go to Material Editor, right click, Materials, VRay Material. Make that kind of the same color as our lake water, something like greenish, yellowish something. Something like that maybe. And assign this to the tyFlow debris. Now switch to the camera view, and right away we see they are just too big. So we go to the scale and set that to 33 or something. And let's see how the live preview looks like. So enabling the water and then see what we have. Looks okay. Now we have some debris in the water. There's just maybe too many. So let's go and change the amount maybe to about 1,000, just half of what we have right now. And I guess scaling wouldn't hurt when we go and scale it down to 20 or something. Let's see what we get. Yeah, it looks much better now. Okay. This is for the debris. So now let's go and stop this and go and create those fish. Let me rename that real quick to debris. Now turn off the water and actually just select my fish, solo this and zoom into that. That is just a simple animation that I did with the FFD box on top of it, and that is the animation I created with that, nothing crazy, and that is 25 frames long. So this is all we have to know about that. Now we need to create a tyFlow or tyActor. So go to helpers, select tyFlow, and then go to tyActor and set that thing to center. Go to the settings, pick the fish, then add an animation and call this swim and set the endpoint to 25 because that is the last frame of the animation of the fish. And here make sure in the deformations, the non-skin deformation is activated since we are not using any skins or a skin modifier to animate it with bones and stuff. So just make sure that it's checked on. Now create a new tyFlow and set the time step to 1/4. Go to the editor and add birth to that. We will give birth to some 10 fishes or something. Then add a position icon operator here, zoom out. There we go. Create a new one. turn it 90 degrees. And let me change the size of it to maybe 10, and then unhide my ground and the rock model, so I see where I am actually emitting those fish. So there we go. That should be okay. Now back to our settings. Now we need speed operator and set that to a long icon arrow and select this icon here. 1 centimeter is actually okay. We don't see them because they're just too dark. Large dots. So now see some yellow dots getting emitted and shooting out of it. So there we go. This will be our fish. Now we have to add an actor here. And for our actor, we're gonna select the Thai actor in our scene. I don't know why I have 2 of them. So, and also an actor animation. And for the actor animation, make sure you have the same name as we defined here in our Thai actor, which is swim. And set it to loop. And here we go and change this to display geometry. So we zoom in, you see there is a fish and they're all swimming and going forward. Now I'm gonna add a scale operator here as well. Set that maybe to 33, make that uniform, and go to my material editor and give them a red material or something. So let me go back here to my camera view and unhide everything. And the water surface as well. So let us see what we have. Now you should see some fish coming in. There we go. They're coming in pretty late right now, but we can change it when we go to our settings and set the start point to minus 100 or something. So they start 100 frames earlier than our actual animation. So that should help with the delay that we saw. So now we move in, they should come, yeah, there we go. Come in much earlier, and this is what we get. Now we turn on the gravel. That looks actually pretty sweet. So there we go. This is it for this tutorial, and I hope you find that useful and helpful to you, and share your results if you're creating something cool based on the tutorials you see. Thank you for watching and have a great and successful time. Bye bye.